I still remember the moment I tore open the card. My hands were shaking. I expected warmth. I expected cheer. I expected family. But what I got was a punch to the gut. I held it there, staring at the elegant handwriting. The ribbons, the glitter, the cheery, "You're invited," and then no name. My daughter's name wasn't on the list. Not even once. I blinked. I read it again. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks. Maybe I missed it. But no. My stomach sank. My chest tightened. A slow, icy wave of disbelief washed over me. I heard her little voice behind me, innocent, unaware. "Mommy? Are we going to Aunt Sarah Sepp's Christmas?" I forced a smile, choking down the bitterness, the rage. "No, sweetheart. Not this year." Her eyes, wide and trusting, pierced me deeper than the card ever could. But why not? I swallowed. "Some people make mistakes, baby. We still have our own Christmas." Her face lit up anyway, trying to believe me. That fake cheer, it broke me more than the truth. I sank into the couch, card trembling in my hand. I replayed every memory, every laugh, every hug my sister and I had shared. Had I missed a warning? Had we done something wrong? I whispered under my breath, more to myself than anyone. How could she do this? My own sister, my daughter excluded. The anger started slow, a low simmer, then it grew, gnawing at me, sharp and relentless. I could feel my blood boil. I remembered the last Christmas, my daughter's eyes sparkling as she decorated the tree, my sister cooing at her, saying how grown up she looked. All of it gone, nullified. I couldn't help it. I called my sister. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. "Sarah," I said, voice tight. "I got the card." "Oh hey," she replied, casually, too casual, like a knife twisting. "Yes, I sent it." I held back a laugh, sharp and bitter. "Sent it. Right. But you forgot someone." There was a pause. I could feel her hesitation through the line. Then well, it's just what? I snapped. "Just my daughter? Just the child who adores you more than anyone." I didn't think. "You didn't think?" I cut in, voice shaking now with fury. "She Sepp's my daughter. Your niece, and you chose to leave her out." The silence on the other side was deafening. That pause, that hesitation, that guilt that she couldn't or wouldn't say aloud. I hung up. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped the card again. I sank back into the couch, staring at the wall. My daughter climbed onto my lap, innocent, unaware of the storm inside me. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her close, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. "We shall make our own Christmas, baby. Just us. Our own magic." I wanted her to believe me. I needed her to believe me. But inside I was burning. Rage, heartbreak, disbelief. They swirled together, tight and raw. I thought about confronting my sister, about calling her out in front of everyone, about making her feel the hurt she tried to inflict. No, not yet. I needed control. I needed a plan. I thought about the other Christmases, the other holidays, the gatherings where my daughter was always included, always cherished, and how quickly that could change. How quickly a single choice could wound someone for life. I remembered the look on my daughter Sepp's face when she asked again, "But Mommy, why didn't said Aunt Sarah invite me?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Some people forget, baby, but we still do it differently. Better? You still see." Her smile, fragile but trusting, sparked something dark and fierce in me, something that wasn't just heartbreak anymore. It was the start of reckoning. I pressed my forehead to hers and whispered, "I swear, baby, they shall regret this. But for now we have each other." And that's when it hit me. That's when the anger became a plan. Not a loud, screaming revenge. Not a messy scene. A precise, quiet storm. Something they wouldn't see coming. Something that would make them remember, painfully, that you don't exclude my daughter and get away with it. That Christmas, I held her tight and let the tears fall. But my mind was already moving. Scheming. Plotting. The spark had ignited, and there was no putting it out. They had made a choice, and I would make mine. Mine was a reckoning. The house was quiet that evening, too quiet. The Christmas lights glowed softly, their warmth mocking me. I sat alone on the couch, the card still on the table, edges curled from my grip. My husband came in, his face soft, eyes full of concern. Hey, are you okay? I looked at him, but my gaze didn't set reach him. I set him, I don't sit no. He sat beside me, hand resting lightly on mine. I know it hurts, but it saps just family. They didn't sap mean. They did mean it, I snapped, cutting him off before the pity could settle in. They chose it. My daughter was left out, deliberately. You don't set just forget someone like that. His hand lingered. I know, but we can make it special here, just us. She said'll be happy. I swallowed the lump in my throat. She will, but it won't set erase this. Not the way they made her feel. Not the way they made me feel. He said nothing after that. He knew words couldn't fix it. I stared at the flickering lights, imagining their gathering, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, the way my daughter's absence would echo like a hole in their perfect little world. I could see it clearly. My daughter playing at home with her toys, thinking she was missing nothing, while they smiled at each other, oblivious or maybe not oblivious, just cruel. I clenched my fists. Not tears this time. Anger. Quiet, simmering anger. A slow burn that filled every corner of my mind. I can just let it slide, I whispered, more to myself than to him. I can stet. He touched my arm. You don't have to. But don't let it consume you. I shook my head. It sets not consumption. It sets focus. I pictured their faces. My sister's smug little smirk, their laughter at jokes I wouldn't be part of, their sense of entitlement, thinking they could decide who mattered and who didn't. I thought of my daughter, her tiny hands, her trusting eyes, how she looked up at me every day, believing the world was safe. I would protect that. I had to. I'll make sure she's never left out again, I said, voice low, almost a growl. What do you mean? He asked, eyes wide. I smiled faintly, darkly. I mean, we don't beg to be included. We make our own space. A space where she is always seen, always celebrated, always cherished. His hand squeezed mine, hesitant. And them? I laughed softly, bitterly. Let them stew in their smug little bubble. They made their choice. Now it's our turn. The anger wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. It was silent, precise. It wrapped around my heart like steel. Every memory, every insult, every deliberate slight became fuel. I thought about Christmas past, about gatherings where I'd smiled politely while feeling invisible, about how easy it had been for them to dismiss me. Dismiss her, that would never happen again. I pictured the card again. The glitter, the fancy handwriting, the omission. I pictured holding it up in front of my sister, my voice calm but sharp. This is what you sent. This is who you left out. I pictured my daughter laughing, surrounded by people who adored her, not just tolerated her, not just included her as an afterthought. Do you have a plan? My husband asked softly, almost afraid to ask. I have clarity, I said. That sets the start, and clarity is more dangerous than anger when you wield it right. I leaned back, letting the quiet rage settle into something solid. It wasn't hate, not yet. It was purpose, determination. I would protect her. I would honor her. I would take the power they tried to deny us and make it ours. The room was dark now, lit only by the pale glow of the lights. I hugged my knees to my chest, staring at the card again. My mind moved through scenarios, possibilities, ways to turn this hurt into something that mattered, something that would last. No yelling, no begging, no begging, for scraps of affection they threw around like confetti. Just strategy. Justice, quiet reckoning. I whispered to the shadows. They don't get to decide who belongs anymore. I do, we do. And for the first time that night, a small, dark smile touched my lips. The fire had started, silent but unstoppable. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, the soft glow of the screen lighting my tense face. The house was silent, except for the faint hum of the heater. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my heart pounding like a drum. I needed a solution. Not a plea. Not a compromise. Something undeniable. Something powerful. I scrolled through listings, each property more extravagant than the last, but none of them felt right, until I saw it. The Snow Lodge. My breath caught. Twinkling lights strung across the roof. Smoke curling from the stone chimney. A private ice rink glinting under the moon. Inside, a grand fireplace, rustic elegance, windows framing snow-dusted pines, the kind of place that felt like a movie. A story, a memory frozen in time. I whispered to myself, almost in disbelief, I could own this. Not just rent, not just for a weekend. Ownership, real, undeniable, unshakable. I leaned back, staring at the images, my mind racing. I imagined my daughter's eyes lighting up, the soft gasp of awe as she stepped onto the ice for the first time, her laugh echoing off the wooden beams, her tiny hands wrapped around hot cocoa mugs, marshmallows floating on top, and me, holding her close, letting the warmth fill every crack that family had broken open. I can do this, I murmured. My husband walked in, rubbing his eyes. You've been staring at that screen for hours. I found it, I said, voice low, but certain, the place, the one that changes everything. He frowned. The Snow Lodge? That accepts this huge commitment. Are you sure? I turned to him, eyes blazing. Sure. I've never been more certain of anything. It's not just a trip, not just a getaway. It's ownership. It's power. It's her Christmas. He sat down heavily, letting out a slow breath. Okay, tell me what's going through your head. I leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper, almost conspiratorial. They left her out. Deliberately. They wanted her excluded. That means something. That's a choice, and choices have consequences. This isn't just a Christmas trip, this is a statement. A message. Quiet, undeniable. She's mine, we're ours, and we don't wait for permission anymore. He hesitated. And the cost? The logistics? I smiled faintly, darkly. Isep crunched the numbers. Every penny, every detail. It's risky, yes, but not reckless. And sometimes you have to take calculated risks for the people you love most, for her. My fingers traced the edge of the laptop. I imagined sending invitations, beautifully written, formal, elegant, letters landing in their mailboxes with that subtle chill. This is what exclusion looks like. You chose to leave her out. I pictured my sister's face, her smile faltering, confusion mixing with discomfort as she realized she couldn't undo this. She couldn't buy back what she ignored. She shall see, I said softly, almost to myself. She shall never be overlooked again. My husband reached for my hand, tentative, unsure. It's bold, it's brilliant, but are you ready for the attention, the reactions? I nodded, dark determination setting in. I'm not doing this for attention, I'm doing it for her. And if the fallout teaches them a lesson, fine, let them feel it. Quietly, slowly, precisely. I imagined snow falling on the lodge as we arrived. My daughter's boots crunching against the fresh powder, cheeks pink with cold, eyes wide with wonder. I could almost feel the heat of the fire as we entered, the scent of pine and cinnamon filling the air. My heart swelled with love, and a strange, intoxicating sense of power. Mommy, are we really going? Her small voice echoed in my mind, even though she was asleep upstairs. Yes, baby, I whispered aloud. We're really going. And this will be our Christmas. The kind that's ours, the kind that no one can erase. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. The plan was forming in my mind, every step deliberate, every move calculated. Not a whim, not revenge for the sake of anger, but a response, a correction, a moment where my daughter's joy became undeniable, and the people who had doubted her, doubted me, saw that exclusion carries weight. I clicked through the final listing page again. The lodge, for sale, yours for the taking. My pulse raced. I could feel the heat in my chest, the rush of adrenaline mingling with maternal love. I could almost hear the soft crackle of the fireplace waiting for us. I whispered, almost a vow, we deserve this. She deserves this. And I still make sure they see it, in their own silence, their own recognition. This isn't just Christmas. This is our declaration. I closed the laptop slowly, the decision solidified. No hesitation, no second guessing. Ownership, joy, justice. It all started here, with a click, a commitment, a promise. I would give her a holiday she'd never forget, and they would never forget either. This was the moment everything changed. I started with texts. Short, deliberate, careful, friends who had always admired my daughter, cousins who never questioned her worth, a few colleagues who quietly respected me. Hey, I need your help with something special this Christmas, I typed. Responses came almost immediately. Excitement, curiosity, even a hint of disbelief. Of course, tell me everything. One friend wrote. You so serious, my cousin replied. This sounds amazing. I smiled, a spark of joy breaking through the weeks of tension and heartbreak. It felt good to feel that again. Real excitement, real hope. I crouched on the living room floor, my daughter next to me, her little hands covered in glitter and glue from our first decoration attempts. Mommy? Look, I made a star, she said, holding up a crooked glittery ornament. It's perfect, baby, I whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her grin was bright enough to light the whole room, enough to melt the last of my silent fury into something more constructive. We brainstormed games, secret Santa surprises, tree decorating ideas. Every laugh, every tiny squeal of delight, felt like a stitch sewing over the wound left by her exclusion. I read another message on my phone. Count me in. I still bring supplies, help set up. She deserves the best. Her eyes met mine. Mommy, will Aunt Sarah come? I froze, swallowing hard. No, baby. This one sips just for us, and friends who love you. Her nod was small, but the relief on her face was enormous. I realized then that the exclusion didn't have to define us. That joy could be reclaimed, even built stronger. I tapped out more texts. Secret plan, snow lodge, magical Christmas. Details soon. I imagined my cousin's face when the invitation arrived. Shock, curiosity, delight. And then, the satisfaction of knowing my daughter's happiness was at the center. Not their judgment, not their family hierarchy. I turned back to my daughter, cookie dough in our hands, flour dusting our noses. Careful, Mommy. Don't get too messy, she giggled. I can handle messy, I said, laughing softly. I felt a rare lightness in my chest, but beneath it, a quiet determination simmered. This wasn't just baking or wrapping. Every small act was a stake in the ground, a quiet promise she would never be sidelined again. Messages kept coming. We still bring lights, extra decorations. I can help with the ice rink prep. I read each one slowly, savoring the support, feeling it fuel me. The Snow Lodge wasn't just a location anymore. It was becoming an idea, a fortress, a sanctuary. My daughter's happiness would be absolute, and the people who tried to diminish her, they would only watch, powerless. I whispered to her as she pressed her cheek against mine, tired but still glowing from excitement. This Christmas is going to be yours, baby. Yours and ours. She smiled sleepily. I can wait, Mommy. I let my fingers hover over the keyboard again, drafting invitations, coordinating friends, making lists of games, food, decorations, every choice, every detail, a deliberate act of love and defiance. One text made me pause. My cousin had written, "Are you sure this will work? Won't they be upset?" I laughed softly, bitterly. Not upset, enlightened, maybe a little unsettled. But that's their problem. Our problem is joy, and she deserves that fully. I could feel it now, the shift in me, the anger that had burned silently for weeks had transformed into clarity, into strategy. Power didn't have to be loud, it didn't have to be cruel, but it had to be unassailable. I imagined their faces when they heard about the Snow Lodge, the disbelief, the quiet sting of realization that exclusion has consequences. They had chosen to hurt my daughter. I had chosen to protect her, and amplify her happiness. I held her hands again, rolling out dough for gingerbread cookies. We salt make magic, baby. You salt see. Magic? She asked, eyes wide. Yes, I said softly, brushing flour from her nose. Magic that sips all yours. A Christmas where you matter the most. I could feel my resolve solidifying. This wasn't about revenge in the petty sense. It was about justice. About giving her the joy they tried to take away. And in that justice, there was power. Quiet, undeniable, full of love and purpose. I scrolled through the messages one last time before shutting my phone. Everyone was on board. Allies gathered. Excitement building. I leaned back, watching her nap on the couch. Cookie dough hands still sticky, glitter in her hair. For the first time in weeks, I felt unshakable. The Snow Lodge would be ours. A fortress, a celebration, a statement. And no one, no exclusionary card, no smug remark, no deliberate slight could touch what we were building. I whispered into the quiet room. This is just the beginning, baby. Just the beginning. The envelope was simple, cream-colored, elegant, a ribbon tied loosely around the fold, no glitter, no frills, just a quiet, deliberate statement. I held it in my hands for a moment, feeling the weight of it, not the paper, but the intention. This is it, I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. This is the moment. I slipped it into the mailbox, watching it disappear into the chute like a secret being carried into the world. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed, a message from my sister. Got your letter. Short, sparse, but every punctuation, every hesitation was loaded. I called her immediately, letting it ring twice before she answered. Hello? Her voice was clipped, careful. Sarah, I said softly, almost sweetly. Did you get my invitation? A pause. Too long. Yes, I did. I could feel the hesitation, the unease crawling across the line. I kept my voice calm, neutral, cordial, but the satisfaction underneath was a quiet, simmering thrill. You're inviting us to the snow lodge, she said finally, as if testing the words aloud, trying to anchor them in reality. Yes, I replied evenly. Christmas at the snow lodge. We thought it would be special. Another pause. I imagined her eyebrows knitting together, the flush of confusion spreading across her face. Special. I let the word hang. Yes, special. She swallowed something I couldn't set here, but. You know. Know what? I asked. Voice soft, almost vulnerable. That you left her out last year? That exclusion has consequences. Silence. I could hear her breathing. Maybe a tremor. Maybe guilt. Maybe fear. I didn't need her to respond. The knowledge alone, the understanding that she had been outmaneuvered, was enough. Yes, she said finally, voice tight. I smiled faintly, darkly. Good, that's all I wanted you to see. I hung up before she could stumble for words. My heart raced, not with anger, not with revenge, but with that strange, rare satisfaction of having played the game perfectly. Then my phone rang again. Mother. Hello? She said, tentative. Hi, Mom, I said lightly, almost cheerfully. Did you see the invitation? Oh yes, she said slowly, hesitation heavy in every syllable. Its steps very formal. Yes, I said softly. I wanted it to be clear. Everyone Stead's invited. Everyone who matters. Her pause was palpable. Well, I suppose we should prepare then. Yes, I said again, letting the subtlety of it sink in. Prepare, for her. She didn't argue, didn't protest. Just a quiet acknowledgement, the silent sting of recognition. I hung up, exhaling slowly. The thrill wasn't in confrontation. It was in the precision. The fact that my daughter, so carefully excluded, would now be the center of this holiday, that I had orchestrated it quietly, elegantly, without a scene. I glanced at my daughter, sitting on the couch with her stuffed reindeer. Mommy, why does everyone sound worried? I crouched beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Worried? Oh honey, sometimes grown-ups overthink things. Don't set worry, it's all okay. She nodded, satisfied, returning to her coloring book, oblivious to the subtle currents of karma flowing through our family. I let her innocence wash over me. That small, unguarded trust was what this was all for. Every ribbon, every cookie, every glitter-covered ornament we had made together. It was armor, and now the snow lodge would be the fortress. I pictured my sister receiving the invitation in the mail, the neat handwriting, the restrained tone, the polite wording, and then that moment when she read it and realized what it meant. Not just a holiday gathering, but a demonstration, quiet, precise, unforgiving. I imagined my mother holding hers in her hands, hesitant, weighing her response, the history of favoritism, exclusion, family politics pressing down. And I smiled softly, brushing flour from my daughter's nose as she reached for another crayon. This is for you, baby, I whispered, pressing a kiss to her temple. This Christmas, they can touch your happiness. I sent out a few more messages to allies, friends who had promised support, cousins who had been quietly cheering from the sidelines. They got theirs, I wrote. The letters are out. Now we wait, and we prepare. I sat back, hands clasped tightly, feeling the weight of satisfaction settle like a stone in my chest. Not loud, not boastful, just complete. The snow lodge was ours. The joy would be hers, and the knowledge of exclusion, combined with the elegance of my response, would linger in their minds. Subtle, undeniable, unavoidable. I glanced at the clock. My daughter yawned, curling into my lap. "Mommy, when do we go?" "Soon, baby," I whispered, stroking her hair. "Soon. And when we do, it'll be perfect. All for you." Her eyes fluttered closed, trusting, and in that trust, I felt the final piece of my plan fall into place. No confrontation, no anger displayed, just the quiet triumph of a carefully orchestrated move. I pressed my forehead to hers. "Sleep now, baby. Christmas is coming, and this year you lead. They follow, and they shall see. Exclusion has consequences." And in that moment, watching her breathe peacefully, I knew it. The subtle, perfect victory had begun. The snow lodge appeared as if it had been plucked straight from a storybook. Smoke curled from the chimney, snow drifted lazily across the pine-dusted roof, and the soft twinkle of lights made the windows look like they were winking at us. I parked the car, my fingers gripping the wheel, heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and relief. "Mommy, it's like a castle," my daughter squealed, pressing her tiny nose against the frost-coated glass. I laughed, brushing the snow from her coat. "It's steps yours, baby, all yours." She practically bounced up the steps, her boots crunching in the fresh powder. I followed, feeling the tension of the past weeks melt slightly with each step inside. The smell of pine, the warm air from the fireplace already lit, filled the space. My chest swelled, a tight, satisfying knot of pride and love. "Look at this, Mommy." She ran from room to room, touching every surface, her eyes wide and sparkling. I watched her, letting the joy wash over me. For so long I had carried anger, heartbreak, a quiet rage at the exclusion. But here, in this space, it couldn't reach her. Here, she was untouchable. Friends arrived, faces smiling and hands full of gifts, decorations and warm hugs. "You did this?" one friend asked, awe in her voice. "I did," I said, smiling. "It's hers. Completely." We lit the fireplace together, stacked the wood just so, the flames flickering and casting soft shadows along the walls. I watched my daughter's eyes widen in delight, cheeks glowing with the reflection of firelight. "This is perfect, Mommy. Perfect," she exclaimed, twirling in front of the tree we'd started decorating. I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We stirred just getting started, baby." We hung ornaments, each one a small act of joy. She insisted on the top star, wobbling it into place with my help. I let her, watching her hands steady, feeling the pride swell in my chest. Every glittery snowflake, every tiny bauble, a silent testament that she was seen, cherished, central. Friends unpacked games and supplies. Laughter began to echo through the lodge, bouncing off the wooden beams. "Snowball fight outside?" one friend asked. My daughter Sep's eyes lit up. "Yes, please." We bundled up, stepping into the fresh snow. She threw the first snowball with perfect aim, shrieking with glee. I ducked, laughing as a flurry of snow hit my shoulder. "Hey, that's cheating," I shouted. "No cheating, Mommy. It's fun," she countered, launching another snowball with a giggle that made my chest ache with happiness. I caught her tiny hand, spinning her in a slow motion that made her laugh until her cheeks burned. Around us, friends were caught in their own playful battles, the cold air sharp but exhilarating. Later we returned inside, dripping snow melting on the floor. I handed out mugs of hot cocoa, marshmallows bobbing on top. She curled into my lap by the fireplace, warm and tired, still giggling from the snowball fight. "This is the best Christmas ever, Mommy," she said softly, eyes half-lidded with contentment. "I'm glad, baby," I whispered, brushing her hair from her face. "You deserve it." I took a moment to look around the room. The friends who had joined us, the laughter, the warmth, it all felt like armor against the past. The exclusion, the heartbreak, the betrayal, it lingered only as a shadow at the edges of my mind, powerless to touch the joy we were creating here. One of my friends nudged me, whispering, "She's radiant. You did this for her." "Yes," I said softly, watching my daughter pour marshmallows into her cocoa with delicate concentration. "All of this for her." We decorated the tree fully, each ornament placed with care, a small memory captured in each one. Stockings were hung along the mantel, carefully labeled. I even wrote a note for her, tucked into her stocking, a little message of love and pride. "This one's for you, baby," I said, pressing the note in her hand. She hugged it to her chest, smiling shyly. Outside, the snowfall thickened, blanketing the lodge in pristine white. I could hear the wind whispering through the pines, the gentle hush of a world softened by snow. Inside, it was warm, safe, magical. Later, as evening fell, we gathered around the fireplace with blankets and cocoa. My daughter leaned against me, sleepy but radiant, eyes sparkling in the firelight. "Mommy, I feel happy," she murmured. "You said you're supposed to feel happy, baby," I said softly, holding her close. "You said you're safe here, you said you're loved, and you said you're always the most important part of Christmas." The friends chatted softly, laughter mixing with the crackling fire. I watched her face light up at each joke, each small act of kindness, and I felt a wave of triumph. Not cruel, not vengeful, just right. I thought about my sister, my mother, the card, the exclusion. They existed only as echoes now, reminders of what had been wronged, but powerless to disrupt this. Here, at the Snow Lodge, joy was absolute. I whispered under my breath, almost a vow, "You won't step be overlooked again, baby. Never. Not by anyone." We played games, built snowmen on the deck, and even staged a small scavenger hunt indoors. Each moment was captured in my mind like a slow-motion sequence. Laughter, snowflakes catching the light, cocoa steam curling in the firelight, tiny hands holding ornaments, friends cheering her on. By the end of the night, she fell asleep in my arms, a soft weight of contentment. I carried her to bed, tucking her in carefully, brushing a kiss across her temple. "I love you, Mommy," she murmured, already half dreaming. "I love you more, baby," I whispered, letting my fingers linger on hers, more than anything. I stood by the window, looking out at the snowy expanse. The lodge sparkled in the moonlight. Every light, every reflection of snow, every sound of laughter inside, it was proof that joy could be reclaimed, that love could protect and heal, that silent revenge could be beautiful, precise, and complete without a word uttered. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to breathe fully. The betrayal was a shadow. Yes. But here, in this place, it couldn't touch her. It couldn't touch us. I whispered again, barely audible over the crackle of the fire, "This is ours, completely, and nothing they sep done can ever take it away." And in the quiet glow of the snow lodge, with snow drifting outside and laughter filling the halls, I felt it, the first taste of peace, triumph, and love, all wrapped into one perfect cinematic moment. The doorbell rang just as the last string of lights flickered on the tree. My daughter was perched on the couch, cocoa in hand, snow still clinging to her boots. I set down my mug and wiped my hands on a towel, heart steady, though the anticipation thrummed like electricity through my chest. "They're here," I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. Her eyes widened. "Who, Mommy?" "Family, baby. Some who didn't sect come last time." I smiled faintly, brushing snow from her hair. "Come, let's sex greet them." I opened the door. My sister stood there first, a smile plastered on, too tight, eyes darting nervously around the lodge. Behind her, my mother followed, cautious, hesitant, the weight of curiosity, and maybe guilt, written across her face. Aunt Clara lingered behind them, eyebrows raised, taking in the twinkling lights and the cozy warmth of the lodge. "Hello," my sister said, voice smooth, carefully neutral. "This is impressive." I nodded, voice light, neutral. "Thank you. Welcome." She glanced past me at my daughter, who was now prancing toward them with unbridled joy. "Oh, she's grown," she said, too quickly, too rehearsed. I smiled faintly, guiding my daughter forward. "She sep's been busy making Christmas magic, Aunt Clara," I said, letting the words settle. "Would you like some cocoa?" They murmured assent, hands suddenly aware of the mugs I offered. I watched them, quiet, noting the tension in their shoulders. Their masks were cracking already. My mother's eyes lingered on my daughter, warm, proud, but flecked with hesitation. "She looks so happy," she murmured. "Yes," I said softly, letting the statement hang. "She is, that sep's the whole point." My sister tried a smile, stepping closer, voice sliding into charm. "Well, it looks like you sev gone all out. Haven't set you?" "Very thoughtful." "Thoughtful," I echoed, tilting my head. I wanted it to be perfect for her. That was important. Her smile faltered slightly. I let it. The lodge itself, every sparkle, every warm glow spoke for me. My daughter laughed as she showed Aunt Clara the snowball she sculpted earlier. Look, Mommy helped me. I watched their reactions closely. My sister's eyes flicked toward me, measuring, calculating, my mother's mouth pressed into a thin line. Aunt Clara looked between us, curiosity and admiration mingling with silent judgment. She seems radiant, my sister said finally, voice tighter than before. I didn't expect this. I tilted my chin slightly, letting the lodge, the laughter, the unshakable joy of my daughter do the talking. Neither did I. That sips the point. We wanted something special for her. My mother cleared her throat. It steps beautiful. Yes, I said softly, keeping my tone calm, almost neutral. It steps beautiful when she steps happy. That matters most. I poured more cocoa, keeping my hands steady, letting the quiet intensity fill the space. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The shift in power was subtle but undeniable. Every sparkle of light, every snowflake drifting against the windows, every laugh from my daughter reflected a truth they couldn't deny. Their exclusion had consequences. Mom, what did you say? My sister asked, glancing at our mother. She's resourceful, my mother said, voice quiet, almost reluctant. You have to admit that. I smiled faintly, nodding. Yes, resourceful. She's growing up surrounded by people who value her, who respect her. That's what matters. My sister's shoulders stiffened. She tried again, attempting charm, warmth. Well, I suppose we can enjoy some time here, can't we? Yes, I said calmly, voice light, almost conversational. We can, but let's remember why this space exists. It's for her, not us, not grudges, just joy. I watched my daughter show Aunt Clara her gingerbread ornaments. She twirled, holding up a crooked candy cane proudly. See? Mommy helped me. Aunt Clara smiled warmly, bending down to her level. I see, she did a wonderful job. My mother sighed softly, almost imperceptibly, guilt perhaps, or recognition.
She underestimated what you would do, what you could do.
I nodded again, letting the weight of my calm, precise planning speak. Sometimes people underestimate what love can build, and what it protects. My sister tried to hide it, but I saw it, the flicker of something she couldn't charm away. Shock. Pride, maybe, but mixed with the sting of realization. They had left her out last year. They had chosen exclusion, and now, silently, elegantly, I had turned that choice into a mirror reflecting their own mistakes. Shall we decorate the final ornaments? I asked my daughter, guiding her gently. Yes, she shouted, her voice bright, pure. Mommy, watch this one. I watched, letting the moment stretch. The quiet triumph wasn't in words or glares. It was in her laughter, in the warmth radiating from the lodge, in the way my daughter felt cherished, central, untouchable. My sister picked up an ornament hesitantly, placing it on the tree, her movements careful, precise, too aware of what this space meant. My mother hung one beside her, silent, deliberate. Aunt Clara simply watched, admiration and subtle awe in her eyes. This is perfect, my mother whispered, almost to herself. Yes, I said softly, letting it linger. Perfect because it is hers, because it is protected, because joy can be stolen, not when it is built with intention. The silence stretched, comfortable yet heavy with unspoken acknowledgement. No confrontation, no accusations, just recognition, quiet, subtle, undeniable. My daughter clapped her hands. Look, it's done. And in that moment, every subtle glance, every flicker of surprise and guilt, every acknowledgement of the quiet power shift crystallized. They saw it. They recognized it. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to speak triumph. The scene, the warmth, the laughter, the joy they had tried to deny, was enough. My sister's lips pressed into a thin line. My mother's eyes softened but held weight. Aunt Clara smiled knowingly. I sipped my cocoa slowly, letting the subtle victory settle around me like the snow outside. This was poetic justice. Quiet, precise, unshakable. I glanced at my daughter, curled in a blanket, eyes glowing in the firelight, laughter still dancing in the room. This is yours, baby. Always yours. And finally the shift was complete. No shouting, no confrontation, just the truth, displayed beautifully, undeniably, in the life and joy of my daughter. I whispered softly to myself, letting it echo in the warm room. We are untouchable, and they finally see it. The lodge was quiet now. Snow drifted against the windows, soft and relentless, covering the world in white. The laughter, the excitement, the small dramas of the day, they had all passed, leaving a calm that felt almost sacred. I sank into the couch, pulling my daughter close, her tiny body warm against mine. She was exhausted, rosy-cheeked from snowball fights in cocoa, curls damp from the winter air. Her eyes fluttered closed, the slow, peaceful rhythm of sleep settling over her. You are safe now, baby, I whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face. No one can ever leave you out again, not ever. She murmured something unintelligible in her sleep, a smile flickering across her lips. I held her tighter, letting the warmth sink into me, letting the quiet of the lodge fill the empty spaces in my heart. I poured myself a cup of tea, watching the fire flicker. My mind wandered, retracing the steps of the past weeks, the heartbreak, the exclusion, the silent rage that had driven me. Every pang of betrayal, every ache of rejection, every sleepless night had led me here. I had done this not out of malice, not out of spite. I had done this to reclaim joy, to protect her, to ensure that her laughter could never be stolen, her worth never questioned. She sups asleep, I whispered to no one, my voice low, contemplative. And she sups happy, that sups all that matters. The fire crackled, shadows danced across the walls, tiny echoes of the day's magic. I thought about my sister, my mother, even Aunt Clara, their expressions, the subtle shifts in posture, the recognition of their mistakes. I had watched it all, silently, letting the lodge, the warmth, and my daughter's happiness do the work I didn't need words for. I lifted my mug, sipping slowly, letting the heat fill me, letting the day settle. My daughter stirred slightly, stretching, eyes still closed. Mommy, she whispered, voice heavy with sleep. Yes, baby? I asked softly. Did everyone see? I smiled faintly, brushing her hair back. Yes, baby. They saw, they know. But it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is us, you, your joy, your place in the world. She hummed, nestling back into me. I like this Christmas, she murmured. It feels ours. It is ours, baby, I said quietly. Completely ours, and no one can take it away. I looked around the lodge, at the half-finished decorations, the ornaments we had hung together, the stockings carefully labeled. Every detail was a testament, a small monument to what I had built: joy, protection, and abundance from heartbreak and exclusion. I reflected on the rage I had felt, the quiet, simmering anger at the invitation that hadn't included her. I remembered the nights I had stared at the card, disbelief and fury coiling inside me. And now, that rage had transformed. It wasn't cruelty, it wasn't vengeance in the way people think. It was reclamation. It was empowerment. It was a promise kept. I let my eyes drift to the window. Snowflakes tumbled in slow motion, drifting lazily through the cold night air. Each one reminded me of fragility, of fleeting moments, of beauty and transformation. That was what this Christmas had become, a transformation. You're awake? I whispered softly as she stirred again, half smiling. I want to stay here forever, she murmured, eyes still heavy with sleep. I chuckled quietly, brushing her cheek. I wish we could, baby. But this moment, it stays with us. Always. You carry it with you. I carry it with you. And it's steps enough. She yawned, curling into me again. I let her rest, letting the warmth of the fire and the peace of the lodge cradle us both. I thought about the decisions I had made, buying the snow lodge, gathering friends and allies, orchestrating a quiet revelation of exclusion. Every step had been deliberate. Every choice had been made to ensure that she would never feel unseen again. I traced her tiny hand with my finger, marveling at its softness, its trust. No one decides your worth, baby, I whispered. Not them, not anyone, only you, only us. The fire cast golden light across her hair, curling around her cheeks. She looked serene, radiant in sleep, and in that moment I realized something profound. My revenge hadn't been about punishment, it had been about reclamation. About taking something stolen and returning it tenfold, not as cruelty, but as love. I sighed, letting the tension of weeks dissolve, leaving only warmth, only triumph, only quiet satisfaction. My scars remained. Yes, the ache of exclusion, the sting of betrayal, but they no longer defined me, they shaped me. They had made me a mother who would fight silently, fiercely, unflinchingly for her child's happiness. Mommy? Her soft whisper pulled me from my thoughts. Yes, baby? I asked. Will it always be this safe? Yes, I said without hesitation, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Always. You are safe. You are loved. And this, Christmas ours, is never ending. I watched her drift fully to sleep, chest rising and falling, hair curling around her cheeks. Outside, snow continued to fall, soft and relentless. Inside, the lodge glowed with warmth, the remnants of laughter and joy still lingering in the air. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her close, letting the quiet triumph settle over me. For the first time I felt it fully, the power of love, the precision of justice, the sweetness of victory without cruelty. I whispered softly to myself, almost a vow, no one will ever decide your worth again, not them, not anyone. This Christmas, ours, and so am I. And as the snow fell outside, the lodge glowing in golden light, I allowed myself to close my eyes, to breathe fully, to let peace and empowerment wash over me. We were whole, we were safe, and we were enough. Weeks had passed since the lodge became ours. The snow had melted, streams whispered past the trees, and life outside seemed unchanged, but inside everything had shifted. The lodge wasn't just a building, it was a symbol, a quiet monument to autonomy, justice, and the kind of love that refuses to be sidelined. I sat at the kitchen table, my daughter sprawled across a chair beside me, coloring her latest drawing. Mommy? Look, it's us at the lodge, she said, eyes bright. I leaned over, smiling. I see it, baby. And look at your snowflakes, perfect. Mommy, can we go back soon? She asked, her small hand gripping my pen. I want everyone to see it next Christmas. I chuckled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. We will, but only those who understand why it's steps special, those who know that everyone deserves to be seen and included. Her smile widened. I like that. I sipped my tea, letting her words settle. The lodge wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about teaching her, showing her, that exclusion doesn't define worth, that joy can't be stolen, and that love has a precision sharper than anger. The phone rang. I didn't rush to answer, letting the moment of quiet linger. Finally, curiosity nudged me. Hello? Hi. It's your sister, came the voice on the other end, hesitant, quieter than I'd ever heard it. I took a slow breath. Hello. I wanted to say I'm sorry, she said, voice taut with guilt. I didn't understand last time. I see it now, and I hope we can make things right someday. I paused, listening. The apology was small, tentative, but it mattered. I let the silence hang a beat, weighing it, savoring the subtle power in the moment. Thank you, I said finally, calm, unwavering. I appreciate that. For now, let's remember that inclusion isn't optional, it's essential, that sets how we move forward. I understand, she murmured. I said I'll try. I hung up, letting the quiet settle over me again. My daughter glanced up, curious. Mommy, who was that? Someone from the past, baby, I said, smiling faintly. Someone learning that happiness isn't yours to deny, it's is ours to share. Her small laugh bubbled up, pure and untethered. Yay! I watched her, chest swelling. Every laugh, every small gesture was a victory more lasting than any confrontation. The lodge, our sanctuary, had taught me something profound. That strategy, resourcefulness, and unwavering love are stronger than anger alone. Over the coming weeks, invitations went out to friends and family, but carefully, only those who valued inclusion, who respected the lesson of last Christmas, received them. The rest, observers in the distance, quietly aware that joy had consequences. One evening, as my daughter played near the fireplace, I said softly, almost to myself, we created something that lasts, not just for today, or this winter, but always. She paused, tilting her head. Mommy, it feels different here, safe, happy. Yes, baby. It steps ours. Always. I said, brushing her hair back, and we choose who shares it. I walked to the window, looking out at the now green expanse, sunlight glinting off the remaining patches of snow. The lodge stood proud, serene, untouchable in its quiet assertion of autonomy. Every beam, every flicker of light, whispered of lessons learned and victories earned. My daughter toddled over, holding her hand out. "Come play, Mommy." I took it, smiling, letting her pull me into her world. Laughter echoed through the rooms, sunlight warming our faces. I let it fill me, every echo a reminder of what had been reclaimed, what had been built, and what would endure. No confrontation, no shouting, no lingering resentment, just clarity, empowerment, and the joy of watching her thrive. The scars of betrayal still existed, yes, but they were tempered, redefined, serving as reminders of resilience rather than pain. As I watched her spin in the sunlight, I whispered quietly, more to the future than the present. This is the way forward. Always protect her, always honor her worth. Love is stronger than exclusion, and justice doesn't need to shout to be felt. She stopped, giggling, eyes wide. "Mommy, we did it, didn't we?" "Yes, baby," I said, holding her close. "We did, and we still keep doing it every day, in every Christmas, in every choice, because joy is instead given, it's claimed, and no one decides who deserves it." The lodge, our sanctuary, stood behind us. Its walls were no longer just wood and stone. They were symbols, symbols of careful planning, strategic action, and love that refused to be sidelined. And in the quiet, golden light, I felt it, the subtle, enduring power of having reclaimed what had been denied, of having built a future where exclusion no longer dictated joy. I looked down at my daughter, her small face radiant in the afternoon sun, and whispered one last promise: "No one ever decides your worth again, baby. Not them, not anyone. This everything we built is ours. Always." And as she laughed, spinning through the room, I felt it too. Hope, resilience, and the quiet, unshakable certainty that love, resourcefulness, and strategy would always win.